watching Radio Free Cybertron. For the latest Transformer news, reviews, and more, visit tformers.com.
This is Radio Free Cybertron, episode 359, recorded April 16th, 2014. I'm your host, Brian Kilby, and it's old school RFC. Sorta. We have Don. Don's old school.
Don's just old.
XV.
Don's the oldest school.
XV, fellow founder. Rob Clay, and Hey Mickey. I'm assuming that Amy Morgan, a.k.a. Lady Wreck, will join us later on in the show. We're going to talk about the Windblade comic. But who knows? I know XV and Rob both love this book. Spoilers. And we'll get to that here in a few minutes if Amy doesn't join us. Let's see here. What's going on this week? So, XV, thank you. I ended up getting Whirl.
Yeah.
It came today. I ordered it like immediately after you told me. That was like 2 months ago.
I think it was like a week.
Did you order another Rhinox at the same time?
No.
I told him to, but he didn't seem interested.
But no, I have Whirl now, so my life's complete.
So did you break its knee yet?
I am so flippin' scared.
Okay, so, Cheetamus from Allspark.
Yeah.
He actually popped the pin out of the legs on a Whirl, and it is exactly what I thought it was. It is an octagonal socket with an octagonal piece inside. So when you move it at all, you're warping one or the other piece of plastic inside that joint.
That's awful.
Yeah, it's shown to move, and I guess technically it's made to move, but it's not. You shouldn't move that.
Oh, here's Amy.
Hi.
Hey,
Sorry.
Hi, Amy.
Hello.
Hello.
Have we started already? I apologize.
Yes, but you haven't missed talking about Windblade, so everything's okay.
Ooh, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome sauce.
Hey, Brian, just a random thing.
Yeah.
After the show, I think I know someone who needs that extra Rhinox of yours, so
Okay.
just a heads up.
Sweet. I think it's already on eBay, but I'll double check.
Tell them to start bidding.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's on eBay, but I'll double check.
Not
As
like you
long-
can't
as
take
long
it
as-
down.
Yeah, as long as nobody's bid on it.
Yeah, I can take it down. So, and Amy's on the show this week. Hey, Amy.
Woohoo! It's good to be here. How's everybody doing?
Good.
We're great.
Fantastic. It's a
I
great
was
time.
asking if I should buy Windblade a while ago since Generation 1 is over, and I got a resounding yes from the folks that was here.
Yes. I second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, all the way through whatever.
Hey, Wingblade?
Windblade.
Windblade, sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
Don's fault.
It's like a whole Darkwind, Darkwing, Wing Dark Wind thing.
Yeah.
Darkwing Duck.
Yes.
Now I'm imagining Winged Saber painted up like Darkwing Duck for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, that would be pretty cool.
Which Wing Saber?
Energon.
Ugh. Why?
I
I
don't know
picked
why,
the worst one, and I knew that's what Don was going to pick. So.
I know, it just popped in my head.
I mean, at least use the Cybertron one.
I don't know that
can actually move.
I don't know that I've seen the Cybertron one. Cybertron was a down period for me, so I bought like Prime, and I bought Vector Prime, and that was like it.
Yeah, the Cybertron Wing Saber is the second toy that combines with Optimus.
This week on the show, we have This Week in History. We have a little bit of news this week. Not a whole lot, but we have some. Q&A with Rob Springer. We actually have a segment that was put together by Diecast, Melvar, and Lauren from the Google Plus Hangout, and we have a topic at the end of the show that we're going to get to. But I really think the big news of the week is the first issue of the Windblade comic. Let's go ahead. We'll do that here, though, in just a couple of minutes. Well, it's tease. We're teasing that one. That's what everybody wants to hear about. It's good. Apparently, I haven't read it. But everybody says it's good.
You should totally read it, Brian.
It's on Comixology. You could actually go do that during the break.
I could do it during the show and just stutter and stammer through, nobody would know the difference.
Oh, sure, steal my jokes.
So this week in history.
What do you even have me and Mickey here for if we can't make fun of you
I
ourselves?
know. So in 2004, Columbia Music Entertainment in Japan released the Zone OVA on DVD. I didn't actually know that was officially released on DVD, so that's kind of new to me. I have a bootleg copy that I am pretty darn sure is based off a Laserdisc.
Laser discs.
Yeah, I know. We've talked about Zone before quite a bit. It's crazy. We actually did a Transformers Rewind on Zone. I'll link that from the show notes. You need to go back and watch or listen to that because that was fun. And Zone is really one of those formative things for me in Transformers because I learned about it so early on and watched it so early on into my learning about the Japanese series. It really shaped for me what the Japanese series were, which is screwed up.
Well, no, because now, like, Headmasters was just boring.
Headmasters was boring until you make it English. In English, it's good.
Yeah, but then it's fun. It's not screwed up.
Yeah.
The thing is, at the time, when I first watched Headmasters, I watched it raw, so I didn't know that it was boring. It was just confusing.
That's true. No, that's true. I first watched Headmasters in Japanese on bootlegged VHS tapes, but which I think we talked about last week, being involved in tape trading. But you know, Zone I watched so much farther ahead of Headmasters or Master Force. Actually, I think I probably watched Victory before Master Force. So Master Force was a huge letdown.
Oh, I love Master Force is my favorite.
Master Force is so violent. That cartoon does not F around.
Yeah.
Master Force has, like, concepts I kind of like, but I don't really care for the show overall.
I don't either.
And I mean,
They killed the kid's dad in the second episode.
Yeah. I'm kind of the same way with Headmasters, too. There's stuff in it that I like what they did, especially the way they actually treat Headmasters as being, you know, little robots wearing larger bodies. That always made a lot more sense to me. But
yeah, absolutely.
I never got around to watching Victory, but I'm not really very inclined to either.
It's interesting to see Victory progress from something a little more. It gets kind of dark and it goes places you really wouldn't think of it, but it's not. It's just.
If you watch the first scene, you think it's all about cowboys and stuff. I think that's all that a lot of people have watched is like the first episode or the first 5 minutes.
But it's like the first time Star Saber fights against Lyle Kaiser. It's just brutal.
Yeah.
You know, now that I think about it, I don't think I've even put that DVD in my player since I bought it.
You don't need.
I should do that someday.
We'll watch some when I come down there next time. In like 8 months.
Don't threaten me.
Well, you threatened me with Catwoman, so
That's awful.
Which is great.
Okay, so in 2003,
not this again.
In 2003, the first issue of War and Peace. That was the ongoing series that Dreamwave produced.
That was Dreamwave's. That was the second series, I think.
There's the mini-series and then an ongoing, right?
Well, I think they did. Okay, Amy, you'd probably know this better. Dreamwave's War and Peace. That was like the second mini-series set, wasn't it?
I believe it was. Yeah, I believe it was. I wasn't around during that time, but according to what I've been listening to with Dave and Chris McFeely recording, I think that's what it is. Yeah, War and Peace was the second one.
Have you read it?
I have. It's been a good 2 years since I've read it.
Did you like it?
I liked that one probably better than I liked the other one. It was... I can't remember. I've got to go back and read them again just because it's been a while. But I think I liked the War Within. It was a War Within, War and Peace, and then I can't remember what the third one was. I think we haven't reviewed it. That's probably why I haven't known. Yeah. It was all right. I think the War and Peace one, was that the with Shockwave?
Yeah, that was the second modern day one after the dumb as hell Lazarus thing in the first mini series.
I know it's too late now, but I really need to finish the fanfic that I started that was based on that first miniseries.
Nice.
Is it a serious fanfic?
No.
Even better.
No.
The fun ones are even, yeah.
Have y'all
I'd love to
reviewed the
read it.
Dreamwave Micromasters book yet?
No, we haven't. That's the one I can say with pride that I have not read yet either. I've tried starting it a couple times and I just haven't been able to.
Is it the worst Transformers comic of all time?
I don't know. I've read some pretty bad ones, let me tell you.
I'm not sure how you believe it is, though.
It's the most inscrutable. So I challenge anyone to figure out what the hell is going on in any given panel.
Yeah, someone actually started doing like a page-by-page analysis of the art to try to figure out what the hell was going on.
It was awful. You could
didn't
not
go very far.
You could not tell what. You could not who was speaking to who and what was doing.
Well,
what.
I think there was the one really infamous thing where there was one, like, it was a splash panel, and way up in the corner, Astro Train was flying away, but the way it was done, people thought that they were showing the planet Quintessa.
How does that work?
You'd have to see the page, Rob.
The art
Yeah.
it makes is like a fever dream translated into graphic form.
It's like if someone decided to like satirize Pat Lee art.
Like Pat Lee does. Okay, sorry.
Okay, bad example.
That's like the Simpsons parodying the Simpsons.
Yeah.
Simception?
In 1987, Rosie Bag of Hangers was born.
Bag of Hangers.
It makes me sad that she's so much younger than I am. Not surprised, but sad. But and the
Has
thing
she
is,
done anything since Dark of the Moon?
no, I don't think so.
I may weep openly at that.
It was better than Revenge of the Fallen.
This is true.
In some ways.
I've seen commercials better than Revenge of the Fallen.
Yeah, that MacGyver MasterCard commercial from a couple years ago.
What's not better than Revenge of the Fallen? We've had this conversation. We had this conversation the last time me and Mickey were on together.
The Micromaster comic is not better than Revenge of the Fallen.
I actually bought that miniseries, and I remember reading it, but I don't remember anything about it other than I
I
did
think
buy
the
it.
NES or Magnus Transformers game is better than Revenge of the Fallen.
Famicom. It wasn't released for the NES. If it
I
was,
don't think
I would have owned it.
Technicalities.
Well, Kilby, you could still own it. You buy all kinds of things you don't need.
I've got it. I own it, but not on the NES. I have the Famicom. You know, you can't play it
Okay,
on the
well,
NES.
okay, your statement was vague.
Sorry.
It all emulates the same.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what's important.
But the important part's the pinouts are different. So.
Well, when you say the worst Transformers ever, I keep thinking of Heart of Darkness, where it ate my soul. So
Heart of Darkness was the one with the really terrible art too, wasn't it?
yeah, that was Ulysses Frenis.
And
It just didn't work.
And
I'm not
Megatron
familiar
worked-
with this one. Which is this?
This is leading up to Chaos, right?
Yes, that was leading up to Chaos, yeah.
So this is like Galvatron wandering around doing stuff, killing time, basically.
This is
And
IDW?
Finding,
Yeah.
the rift between, the universe and the dead universe, and Nova coming back, and it just... Yeah.
And beating on Galvatron in really, really bad artwork.
Okay,
and
so
Galvatron getting sucked into the dead universe and having a fever drug-induced dream.
real quick, without any spoilers, does Dark Cybertron make the Dead Universe any more interesting? Because it's really tedious in everything I've read so far.
Actually, the Dead
100%.
Universe was really tedious in Dark Cybertron, too.
Bullshit.
I would like to think that because of Dark Cybertron, we will never see the Dark Universe again. That it's sucked into oblivion or it doesn't exist anymore. Yay!
That would be nice, and I kind of think that's one of the intents of Dark Cybertron. Having read through the whole thing, I think that was John Barber being like, I don't ever want to hear about this ever again.
Let's put a period on this sentence.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So basically, it's now one of the DC New 52 worlds. We'll never see it again.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Hey, so, I was going to do some news, but I really don't give a rat's behind about the Transformers ties.
Oh, good. I don't either.
Let's go tie one on.
I did want to mention the Hallmark 2014 ornament just because I think it looks pretty awesome, and I'll just show that real quick. And you can go find it yourself at tformers.com. But this is just a render of it, but I think it looks great. It's very, of course, G1, based on the G1 Prime toy. So,
at least it's not movie.
Yeah, at least it's not movie. So
Yeah.
Mickey, do you remember
Oh, go ahead.
Do you remember the movie character head Christmas ornaments that I talked about when we were recording Superhero Time a couple years ago?
I don't. I kind of remember the actual ornaments, but I don't remember our discussion.
Just how, like, why would you put something this horrifying looking on your Christmas tree? Because, it's just the heads in, like, super detail movie character heads. Why would you even...
I don't know. Someone hates their children, I guess. Something like that.
What says, let's celebrate the birth of our Lord with, Megatron's face.
Yeah.
And all of its bladey goodness.
Did you say that this is being done by Hallmark, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
I like it.
When you care enough to send the very worst.
Yeah. But, so, we weren't going to do any third-party news, but Don reminded me of something I did actually want to talk about. KFC, Keith's Fantasy Club, they're doing that shark mold. What's the Brave character that you love so much, Don?
Captain Shark.
Captain Shark. But they're also basing our favorite...
There's a Skybite
Yes.
and an Energon-based Sharkticon.
Yes, Skybite, which they're calling Haiku, which I love. I love that. That's going to be produced as well. And it looks pretty nice. I don't know that I need it, of course, because I've got, 2, 3. Gosh. I've got the original BotCon. Is there another one? One's coming out.
Yeah, one is coming out sometime, theoretically, in the next couple months.
Yeah, so that's 3, but darn it, I might have to get this one too.
I don't really understand it. Generally, third parties tend to make the most detailed reproduction of, the show model or whatever as you get.
Well,
but this is...
Yeah,
this seems a lot more like Hasbro's idea of let's reimagine the character as something simple.
Right, but I think what this actually starts out as is a third-party toy of Captain Shark, which they are adapting into other uses.
Yes.
Because Captain Shark is a flying robot.
Captain Shark is a fan favorite, which is the thing.
Yes. Yes, he's a flying robot pirate shark with an eye patch and a 16-missile launcher gun thing.
Okay.
Like, I'm not into Brave stuff, but even I think that's pretty cool. That, and they need to do, like, a third-party Mike Saunders.
No. The original Mike Saunders is good enough. If he's too good, he loses his whole effect.
So in other words, if they try to improve on it in any way, it'll just completely destroy it.
Yes.
So I'm going to go ahead and just say that's it for the news. Let's talk about Windblade.
Okay.
So is this as awesome as everybody says?
Yes,
I think
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if XV is saying yes, then yeah.
Well, okay, I'll put it to you this way. Any issue of, like, okay, More Than Meets the Eye is, like, my favorite ongoing book. Mm-hmm. And since I started reviewing them for T-Formers, wow, that's been close to 2 years now. Damn.
Wow. Oh my God,
awesome.
I'm getting old.
I think that's great.
In that time, though, I've never given an issue of More Than Meets the Eye, like, a full 10 out of 10, but I gave Windblade a full score.
Cool.
Because I love the art. I'm going to start there because it's so different from anything else we've had in Transformers comics or really official Transformers anything. And the style is really great. Sarah Stone is really good at body language, motion, facial expressions. All of that comes across so naturally and cleanly and smoothly. I mean, you can tell, you could read the book just with the art. And Rob will back me up on this. Margaret Scott's writing is awesome. She's written my favorite episodes of Transformers Prime, and it shows through in this too. Mm-hmm. Windblade and Chromia were non-characters in Dark Cybertron, half on purpose, I'm sure, but just, first 5 pages of Windblade #1, Windblade's got a really strong character developed just in that space, and Chromie is not far behind. The whole thing is just a really solid package. I was really happy with this book.
Awesome. I can't say anything better than that. You've pretty much nailed it. That's yeah.
Now, as someone who hasn't read the book, I have heard of all of the criticisms being tossed around and things said about this and that. In a nutshell, what was the criticisms, and do you think the book addresses what they were as far as to finally put the issue to rest?
The criticisms are fans suck.
I thought it was something deeper and more meaningful than that.
Oh,
no,
I've heard that she's a Mary Sue because she's a fan-made favorite blow. I was like, look, she was voted on by the fans. The fans voted, and this is what they came out of that. And they're not trying to say, oh, you'll love her. It was, Margaret and Sarah have done a lot for the last couple of months. They've done a lot of work getting in every interview they possibly can. Yeah. I mean, for a while there, it did look like all the news was pretty much all of their interviews. But that's them being smart. That's them going out and being proactive and trying to advertise and go to every little inch of the internet because they want to see this successful. So, I mean, they're not ramming it down your throats. It's just that because we're getting all of the news online and a lot of it is coming at the same time, it's them doing all of their interviews. Mm-hmm. So I looked at it and said, you know what, I'm not going to read every single interview because a lot of them kind of pretty much went over about the same thing. But I just thought, wow, this is really smart. This is these two ladies wanting to see this be good and to sell well. And it didn't bother me one bit. I mean, did I read every interview? No, I didn't. But I did tweet out every single interview that I saw or whatever. I put it all together, and I have access to them. But some fans were just kind of being a little critical about that. I thought, well, they're just trying to be smart, Mm-hmm. And hopefully this brings in people that have never read Transformers, and because they read one issue or a couple issues of Windblade, they say, I'm going to go check out, Dark Cybertron or More Than Meets the Eye or Robots in Disguise, and that just kind of snowballs into, a fan that gets everything and reads everything. So.
Yeah, it's not like Windblade is what Drift started out as.
No.
There's a very distinctive difference, and Amy's got it exactly right too with the interviews. They're trying to make everyone understand what their intent was, how they put this together. And I read a lot of the interviews because I posted references to a lot of them at T-Formers, so I was reading through for excerpts, and there was a lot of overlap on that, but every one of them said a little something different, and it was good to have that going in because you kind of understood the thought processes too. So, yeah. I mean, they did a really good job of doing their own publicity, basically, for this book, and every new thing I read made me more excited for it, and I was not let down at all.
The art is awesome. I just bought it on Comixology, and I'm looking at it. It looks great.
That's awesome. Yeah.
By looking at it when you're reading it right now, right?
Yeah.
Some art they've tried in the past have been kind of a hit or type of miss type of thing, where we get, we've already mentioned it before, Ulysses Freeness. His art looked interesting and it was different, but once we saw it as Transformers, it kind of didn't fit very well.
Yeah,
and hers, it fits. Yeah, hers absolutely fits.
I'm sorry. Sorry, I thought you were on that time. And there's Livio Ramondelli, who color is really great. I just am not a huge fan of the way he actually draws robots from panel to panel.
Yeah.
But I mean, Sarah Stone's another one with a really unique coloring style and really strong line work too. I want to see her do more Transformers work after Windblade wraps up. Hopefully Windblade will get extended past a miniseries in some way, but whatever form it takes, I want to see more Sarah Stone art in Transformers books. And like going back to Dark Cybertron 2, we had Robert Gill do part of 2 issues actually.
Oh yeah.
And I really liked his work too. I mean, we saw a few good artists come out of the crossover event. And before that, there was Matt Frank, who's only done 2 Transformers things, and I think that's terrible because he's got beautiful art too. He's got his own like cartoonish style that really suited More Than Meets the Eye and the Mars Attacks book, because there was nothing more cartoon than Mars Attacks the Transformers.
Yeah. Well, without him, we wouldn't have gotten Force Field Face, right?
Exactly. No, I mean there's a lot of artists we've seen come up in side projects and miniseries, and I want to see more. I want to see them get more work in this, and I wish there was more ongoing books than we had, just so there could be more space for that. Because I don't want to take work away from Alex or Andrew on the main titles either, but too many good artists.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that they'll space it out in such a way that, you know, like we get a one shot every once in a while in Robots in Disguise, or, you know, More Than Meets the Eye, so that we give those guys, the main artists, a break for like an issue or two, and then go back to what they're doing. But sometimes some of those, you mentioned Matt Frank. I know he works on the Godzilla titles as well, and so maybe it just might be a thing of, you know, just he's been really busy with other stuff.
Yeah,
so
I
because that happens
that too.
from time to time too. So yeah, cool. I'm all right with having more Sarah Stone. Bring more Sarah. Great.
Maybe we can have annuals in More Than Meets the Eye and Robots in Disguise again this year.
That'd be cool.
That would be another opportunity to let more artists participate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have there been any like the old Transformers? What was it? Was it More Than Meets the Eye? What was the 4-issue series that Marvel did? Universe. And IDW did, not IDW, Dreamwave
did a More Than Meets the Eye book.
Yeah.
That was basically the same idea.
But worse.
And people didn't get paid for that.
People we know.
People we know personally didn't get paid for work in that book. But
it's a shame. I kind of wish, one of them that we know, Jackpot, whose real name I actually can't pronounce, so I'm not going to. Thank you. I'd like to see him get an opportunity to do some work for IDW too, because he does really, really nice art.
His art's awesome, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I actually have one of his pieces as my desktop background.
Awesome sauce.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen him in a couple of years. I miss him. What?
I haven't seen work from him in a couple of years. I think his day job keeps him too busy.
Yeah, he updates his Deviant art page once in a while. Did you get a chance to meet him at BotCon 2012?
I didn't.
Okay. I don't even remember if he was there. Sometimes he has hair, sometimes he doesn't.
Yeah, like my knowledge of him is, hey, he's bald.
Sometimes. Let's see here. Let's go ahead and take a break. We'll jump to Q&A with Rob Springer. Then Diecast, Melvar, and Lauren will actually start us off with our topic this week. And once they are wrapped up with that, we will come back, take our stab at it. And I want to start off with a really awesome email that I got last week. So we will be back in just a few minutes.
You boys a bit bored? Snap into it! Snap into a Slim Jim!
Hey guys, it's Rob. And this week's question comes from my pal Mega81. Mega goes on to ask, what's your take on how third party was then compared to now? And is Hasbro really not paying attention to them at all? Well, thanks Mega81. It's kind of weird because this I'm going to put up air quotes here, third party thing is nothing new. I can remember at least back to the 90s, unofficial stuff being made all the time. There was like though it might be, I think it might have been licensed actually, add-on Fusion Cannon for Action Master Megatron. And like, just little things. There's always sort of little unofficial things being made, like shirts and crafty things. But like accessory kits and add-on kits, the Unicron brothers, Lucas brothers, Unicron brothers, they used to make their upgrade kits. And, it was always a big deal at BotCon each year. They'd be available, They made those great Energon cubes. And there's these Beast Machines accessory kits they made to make the figures look more like they did in the show. And, you know, stuff like that. There's the Unicron stand, or that golden disc set they made that was really nice. And it had a little projector you snap on a Transmetal Megatron to so you could hold the discs like you did on the Agenda. I mean, there's always little stuff like that. I mean, those garage kit figures. You know, they're usually made some sort of exclusive deal, like with it completely just painted out and no profit was being made. Like, you know, you went to this, or a lot of times they're given out for free, or, you know, there's always some sort of way they were done, so it was no questions asked, no money was being made on them. You know, a lot of times, hell, the BotCon 2004, their exclusive was unofficial Action Master breakdown. You know, it's just the way it was at the time. I mean, they've been around forever. I think a lot of us have that unofficial Optimus Primal from Beast Machines that you could get at Big Lots. You know, it was like a original sculpt. I mean, it wasn't very good, mind you. It was pretty derpy looking, but it looked more like he did in the show as compared to the toy at the time. And that was just, you know, unofficial stuff was just, everyone was used to it. I think the only thing that's really changed is the way it's went about. I mean, there's that great, you know, it went from being just accessories and little garage kit figures that were made on, you know, usually, like, I think that Primal was the first one really made for profit, and it was $3. You know, it just wasn't that big of a deal. Everyone, you know, knockoffs are probably about the closest as you got to unofficial figures being made for a profit, you know. And even then, most people are like, this was a knockoff. I didn't have them. You know, people just kind of straight up, I got a knockoff. When I get a regular one, I'll replace it. Or, you know, I bought like a knockoff G1 Megatron to play with, because my vintage 84 Megatron, you know, he's kind of expensive. You know, I had to kind of build him from parts, and it was a little expensive to do. And, you know, he's kind of a fragile toy, so I built him. Yeah, I got one. Then I bought a knockoff that's better made to play with, you know, just to fiddle with. And really, if you swap out the stickers, you can tell the difference. But I digress. Unofficial figures are nothing new. What's changed is how they're handled. I mean, it used to be like, you could buy a guy who does the custom Action Masters, he'd make molds of the rare ones. Like, he had a mold he made of the Sideswipe one, and he'd make like characters from it and sell them on eBay and stuff. You know, but usually just like the cost of materials. Like, it was always made just right, because trust me, Hasbro's always noticed. They're a bigger company than we realize. They're probably watching this. You know, if you don't want to think about it, there's a problem. If they cause for concern, you know, they'll be in that Facebook group or that message board checking up on things. I mean, it's just the way it is. They'll have someone asking around about stuff, and, you know, it's not that there's some big they're a big corporate entity, but some big espionage thing. It's just they have to protect their stuff, and they do when they feel the time when it's needed. The difference is these companies went from making upgrade sets and little things to making full retail figures for profit, and at some point start selling them on online retailers and stuff. And I'm still wondering when the day is that they'll sell them at physical retail. I mean, the time one of them gets big enough to fill those orders. And that's when I probably think Hasbro might step in. Maybe not. It depends on how close. I mean, you look at your that Retro Future line and the Acid Rain stuff and all that. Those are original creations, and they're really resonating with some people and not with others. So time will tell if they put that kind of stuff in a retail space, as opposed to Big Bad Toy Store with Gorbo boat defender guy one who looks like this guy but not exactly like him. You know, he's got a pink mohawk. It's totally not the same guy. You know, that's they're minding their P's and Q's and keeping themselves legal. Now, let's face it, they're still small fries, so that's not totally on Hasbro's radar right now. It's like those Easter basket knockoffs. It's too low key to even. It'd be a waste of money to go after a shutdown. It's like, let them play and make their $1,000. You know, there's like, what, 500 people who own a Hercules? And there's like 10,000 people who own a, Energon Devastator. You know, Hasbro's not that concerned. I mean, it may not be the stuff to people who want the third-party things are after, per se. So, and, you know, they're kind of filling a niche market. But right now, Hasbro's like, just not, they're not too plussed. And like I've said before, the reason you don't see them outright saying anything about it is if they have to basically put that air of, like, they don't know. Because the minute they publicly acknowledge it, they have to go get them. You know, they have to do something about it. I think the closest we came was Aaron Archer saying, those guys are making cool stuff, but they're getting close to stepping too far. And they didn't say anything else. And, you know, a year or two later, he don't work there any longer, which I know it had nothing to do with it, but I'm pretty sure he got in a little... Someone might have told him, hey, you shouldn't have said that. You know. I mean, that's just the way it is. It wouldn't be the first time, I think, they've tried to told them, hey, don't tell them too many things. You know, because... Like I said, it's a corporate entity. And when you say a corporate entity, it's like, hey, you're acting like these aren't people. It's like, well, it's kind of hard to see them as people sometimes the way they behave, because it's a very large governing body running a company. You know, the Transformers team, you know, and you have to think about it as in the team that makes your toys. The Transformers team, a lot of times when they get talked to one-on-one or when they've, you know, stepped down from positions or whatever, not, they're a lot of times on our side about these things. They want to make the stuff like you're wanting and but things they have to answer to shareholders who want them to make something that can be sold at Walmart for maximum profit. And if you're saying, well, hey, why don't they tell the shareholder no? It's like, well, because they want to eat. This is their job. This is their well-being. You know, that's it. And you know, some people at their place of business, they're like, I've got like 1 billion bosses I answer to, and it's like, well, so do they. You know, I got like several people I answer to at my job, and I work with granite. You know, I don't, you know, I don't draw cool things and talk to a guy in Japan like, hey, make this work. And I don't make toys. I make countertops. You know, luckily, I just got a handful of people telling me what to do versus, like, almost separate companies telling me what to do. I mean, it's almost how it works in these things. It's almost like a bunch of companies together under an umbrella, and it's crazy. You know, if you ever think how frustrated you might get at work when you got one supervisor telling you one thing, one supervisor telling you another, imagine having, like, 100. You know, or imagine everything's good, and you've worked for months on it, and yada yada, and it gets one stage, everything's scrapped. And it's like, why? And you get some reason that may not even make sense, because they're probably not telling you the reason why, or who knows, someone may not get it. You know, they're, like I said, those shareholders are like, Bob, these are kids' toys. Who cares? I mean, everyone's got that friend who, when you tell them maybe something you got frustrated about or whatever, they've been like, it's just toys, why do you care? That's you gotta face it, guys, we're a bit in a minority when it comes to our viewpoint on these things. There's a lot of toy collectors in the world, but there's a lot more normal people. And we're the odd man out at most points. So Hasbro's paying attention to them, but the way they're going about it is the way they have to, as in, you know, turn a blind eye. And if those guys go too far, then the legal team will probably swoop in and cause a whole bunch of crap. And even if they get kicked out of court, they'll just keep doing it. They will lawsuit those companies out of business. That's how these companies work. And you're like, well, they don't have that much money. Yes, they do. There's always money for lawsuits. There may not be enough money in the budget to give Blaster a bigger gun because they want to sell that thing for $15. But there's enough money to sue somebody out of business. But yeah, my take on then and now, it's always been there. It's just gotten bigger and more predominant. And I'm kind of curious because we always talk about the third-party bubble going to pop, and it's kind of a theory. And right now, it's, to me, visually, and that's just opinions. Don't get angry at me. And if you get angry at me, why? It seems to be stagnating, the third-party market. And when I say stagnating, as in every company has the same toy. You know, people complain about Hasbro putting out nothing but bumblebees. Well, third-party news is like each group's putting out their version of the same combiner. And when I say that, I bet a lot of people are rolling their eyes and saying, ugh. And the reason you're rolling your eyes is because you've heard it a million times, because other people have said it a million times. When it just like when someone goes, there's nothing but bumblebees, and they go, because it's the same thing. When it gets to the point where people are tired of hearing about the criticisms, it's really reaching a saturation of a complaint. And originally these third-party companies were making, you know, the items we just weren't getting. And now it's like, well, do I want to buy this Predaking, this Predaking, this Predaking, or this Predaking? Oh, look, another one. Yeah, I mean, it's starting to kind of stagnate a little that way. And, you know, sure, making things like Retro Future and Acid Rain, but let's face it, their money's in making these high-end G1 toys. And I really hope they get back to doing the more creative stuff, like I'm looking around, you know, like that guy, like a Slug Slinger or something, versus why did that one group make a Megatron and Optimus? There's like 1 billion of those that come out a year, you know, stuff like that. So that way they can serve that market a little bit better, as opposed to, well, who's making what? Let's look at their version for even, you know, it's getting to that point. And that's where, if the theoretical bubble does pop, it would happen, is when the market starts getting bored and like, why am I paying $70 for this figure when another one's just going to come out after I've pre-ordered it? And you know what, now I'm not even getting my pre-order because another store bought all the pre-orders from another store. And no one told me, so I'm not, you know, people are going to start getting frustrated about that. You know, this whole Warbotron thing, that's going stuff like, if that stuff like that keeps happening, people don't get frustrated, like, why am I bothering? I mean, Master of the Universe Classics has a similar problem. It's so frustrating to buy it, people are giving up on it. And that's it. And if these products keep getting more frustrating to buy, people will just give up. And that's where the theoretical bubble pops, when it becomes a giant hassle, when it's all the same thing, and it's always a headache, and there's something. So hopefully it doesn't go that way. A lot of people really seem to like them, and you know, you should enjoy your hobby. You know, you should enjoy your hobby without someone preaching to you and coming down on you. You know, if you like mainline stuff, cool. You like third-party stuff, cool. It should just be that, you know. So it shouldn't be someone telling you what's right and wrong, because who are they? I mean, when it comes to an opinion about a toy line, there's no correct opinion. In fact, there's no correct opinion unless you have the opinion that's okay to murder people. Then your opinion's wrong. But I think my point's made. Well, thanks, Mega81, for your question. Hey, everyone, check out Mega81's podcast, Shattered Cast Uncut. Those are some cool guys, and I like what they're doing. I got some language there, so don't let your kids listen. But yeah, check them out. And please keep sending in questions, rob@tfradio.net, or just check out tfradio.net for all our ways to contact us and send me a question. I'll be glad to answer it. Add it to the queue, answer it in order of which I get it. If I haven't answered your question, I might not know it came in, so work with me. And check out my blog, roborobspringer.tumblr.com. See what I'm up to every day. Probably frustrated over Lego while eating a hamburger, but you know, that's what I'm doing. So I'll send it back to the gang and everybody. Get along. Bye for now.
Radio Free Cybertron has teamed up with Kokomo Toys and Collectibles in Kokomo, Indiana. If you're in the Kokomo area, visit our store for a huge selection of new and classic toys. Visit online at www.kokomotoys.com for our address and store hours. While you're there, check out our listing of pre-order items, as well as visit our eBay store. Visit us at www.kokomotoys.com. That's KOKOMOTOYS.com. We're also on Facebook.
Okay, because RFC is kicking it old school this week, we're here to chime in on also how we got into the fandom and how we started with Transformers. So Matt, why don't you tell us how you got into the fandom and started?
I actually got into the fandom completely by accident. I found T-Formers just completely randomly and happened across a pre-recorded RFC podcast, started watching it, and that's pretty much my story right there. I watched it for a couple of months, I guess, before I even joined into the text chat. So
you used to watch it pre-recorded on YouTube or iTunes? Or?
On T-Formers, actually.
On T-Formers?
Yeah, that's where I started watching it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of similar. I guess I started on what I believe was a site before it was officially called T-Formers, on the forum there. I think it was a little bit more active at the time. I was in that forum, and then it turned over to T-Formers, or at least they redesigned the site, and I noticed their news page on the front, and it kind of kept me going back and checking it. And eventually I found RFC, and I started watching it and enjoying it. And of course, I've been collecting, Transformers pretty much my whole life. But definitely got more involved once I started watching RFC every week and started buying more, knowing what's coming out. I mean, the internet definitely made us more aware of everything that was out there. I mean, when you were a kid, or even, when I was in my late teens, the only time you knew about a figure is when you saw it on the shelf. And if you didn't see it on the shelf, you didn't even know it existed. Yeah. So it increased the hunt to find the figures, being more involved in the fandom, and then it increases your collection and increases how much you want to talk about it. What about you, Lauren?
So, it kind of funny is I collected them when I was a kid. Well, I had them when I was a kid, and then, I sold them when I realized how much they were worth when I was back in college, and I'm like, okay. And then I happened to run across a Alternator's Battle Ravage on clearance at Walmart for $9, and I'm like, what is this? And then I started to look into it. I was trying to find some sort of history on it or figure it out, and I realized it's a whole line that's been out, and there's all these cars, and I'm an automotive guy. I'm going to school in California for automotive design, so I really enjoy the models and the fact that these are the Transformers I always wish we had as a kid, like a real car branded by a real company, not just a fake one. So then I found T-Formers too by accident. I was looking at something, and how you click on a link and you rabbit into something else, and I think I found the forums, and I was on there for a while, but I didn't even know about RFC really. So I kind of joined, and I was in conversations with a lot of people about stuff going on. I want to say this was a while, I think Alternators was 2006-ish, like kind of when it was getting close to the end of it, I think, is when I
Yeah.
found them.
Yeah, because
Close to the
that's when
end.
classics started coming out.
Yeah, classics. I didn't even know about classics until I was on TV.
I did. That's what got me back into the toys was
And
the
then-
classics. That
And then
went insane.
I missed a lot of them, but I saw them in the stores, and then I started looking for the alternators and all that stuff, and that led to Masterpiece, which, and then I started looking at customs, because then that's when I started seeing stuff like Frenzy Rumble and all these customizers starting to make stuff, and I saw that custom Devastator, and I'm like, wow, this has come a long way since, a kid. So I started digging into it more, and then one day I was on T-Formers, and I saw this chat thing at the top. I'm like, hey, what's this? So I just started commenting on what people were talking about, and that's how I met a few of the guys that we all hang out now, and we do chat pretty much. I say probably we do it almost every day. We're always talking to each other, and then they took that off of the T-Formers, and then we started doing it through IRC, and then one of the guys, Dan, told me, he's like, hey, did you know about the podcast? And I'm like, and it's funny is I've been on the forums for a long time, and I didn't even see it. So I started listening to it, and I started jumping in, and it's kind of grown from there. And I've met a guy from Australia. I went to BotCon last year because he was down there. I went and hung out with him, which was really cool.
The official RFC historian.
Yeah, yeah. And then hopefully this year, whenever they have the TFCon, I'll get to meet Diecast, and hopefully Dan will get to make it, and some other people will go. We can all hang out in Chicago, my old stomping ground. So yeah, I mean, at this point, I've tried to kind of, like, quote unquote, thin out my collection by just getting Masterpiece, just because how Masterpiece has really exploded, and kind of classics. I do some movie stuff. Just more of the times I look at movie stuff is like base figures to customize something else into. I started a pretty bold project with wanting to do a custom Masterpiece Menasor from Alternators. And I still don't have that project done. It's been going on for like 5 years. I have all the parts, I have the plans, I just don't have the time and space to do it. So, and
that does sound like a pretty massive undertaking. So
yeah, and the third-party companies have really just blossomed, I guess, or kind of grown quite a bit. So now it's like part of me doesn't really want to do it because it's so much time to invest, and part of it
you really have to pick and choose.
Yeah, I look at the
third-party
figures and
stuff.
I look at the figure. I'm like, do I really want to cut this one up? Do I really want to ruin this figure? Because there's this chance that I can totally screw it up, and now that figure is no longer. So I have
readily available. Yeah.
Right. So.
The neat thing about that alternator that you were mentioning, the Ravage that turned into a cat from a Jaguar, I think that was actually later in the line, because I'm a big car guy. I have a car background too, and I was also really heavy into the alternators, and they were 1/24 scale, so it looked like a regular diecast car.
Well, that was the thing is if you just liked cars, you didn't even have to. They still had their incentive of just a 1/24 scale car, because I think if you buy the cars in that scale and like metal, they're like $15-$20 anyways.
Yeah,
you get that, and you could transform it. So.
And they did have nice car. I mean, they used some nice cars for the line. I think the only reason they used that Dodge truck was, for Prime. There was probably nothing else that was going to be big enough for him without doing like a Freightliner or something like that. And I don't even know at the time if they would have been able to get the licensing to do that.
Well, that was the big thing. Is I was kind of surprised that with alternators, I was surprised at some of the possible repaints that they never did, because they could have used that prime mold. They probably could have made Hoist, and Grapple, and they could have made all sorts of other figures out of it too. Yeah.
And like Matt said, I mean, classics were coming out at that time, so I think that kind of killed the alternator line with the classics, and the fact that they were kind of hard to transform, so they weren't geared.
Well, classics was coming out. We were coming up on 2007 too, the first movie year, So there was just so much product coming in that something had to give.
Yeah, that was another death of the alternators, definitely. And, a lot of people say good riddance because I know Brian isn't partially fond of the alternators, but...
I have a couple, but...
But as far as, like, the other thing is then they went to the 1/32nd scale alternity, which, I have quite a few of those, but they're so much smaller and they're just as complicated to transform that, like you said, they're not the easiest things to transform either.
And they weren't available, in the States, so
yeah, that's
you
true.
were importing them, and that usually comes with a premium.
Yep.
So
I was always disappointed, though, that they never released a frenzy of that Rumble. That was the one that I kind of expected them to totally make.
And that's really not a bad-looking alternator for what it is.
And had the line gone on, I'm sure we would have gotten one.
It. Yeah, we would have gotten it. We got a lot more if the line had kept going. So
they were actually really hard to find towards the end of the line. Especially, I think that one was a Walmart exclusive or something. So
yeah, I could have picked one up. I had a shelf warmer, but
I think I wound up getting. Let's see. I bought like a ton of shelf warming, I guess, alternators because they had them at Fry's Electronics, and they had them for like, gosh, I want to say like $12. So I have a whole case of like, quote-unquote case of like just figures that I got just because I knew alternators was kind of dying, and I wanted to make some because I saw like customizing was kind of key to keeping me into the alternators as well because I'm like, oh, I can put any car on these things, and then so I bought a whole bunch of stuff to do, and I got this long project list, and I was coming up with ideas with which figures I wanted to make in the new stuff, and I thought it was much easier than it turned out to be. Because I tried Wild Rider, that was my first attempt at a custom, and I had a 360 Modena Ferrari that I tried to put on tracks, but I had issues because tracks was a front end engine and it's a rear engine car, so it was pretty tough. So I never really got past that. But, so that's what got me into it.
That's awesome. So next, there's a little bit of controversy going on. I'm not sure if everyone's aware of it, but the company Warbitron recently released their first figure, and a lot of the stores that were selling it, like Captured Prey, Toy Dojo, TF Source, everyone except Big Bad Toy Store was expecting this figure in April. Well, it turned out only Big Bad Toy Store got the figure, and then people were starting to question why aren't the other retailers getting it. And Warbitron basically put out I believe a statement saying that Big Bad Toy Store had a 90-day exclusivity on the figure because they ordered it first.
And nobody else seemed to know anything about this.
So all the other retailers who basically found out in a forum
and probably are not very happy.
Or from their Facebook page, were basically trying to contact Warbitron to figure out what's going on. And Warbitron tried to say that Big Bad Toy Store bought up their initial run, and now they can't make any more figures till the end of June. But the problem with that is all the retailers that said they were going to, sell a Warbitron figure had to do a minimum order. So all these stores committed to a minimum order, so they all assumed they were getting the figure up front when it was released.
Yeah, it's not just as... Yeah, it sounds like they're trying to backtrack at this point.
Yeah, I mean, Big Bad Toy Store even came out and said, we paid a good amount of cash up front to make sure that we got this figure and that, the project would go through. Big Bad Toy Store says that they're expecting the next figure, which is the Not Swindle, which is the WBO2, or however they're calling it.
Not Swindle.
Not Swindle. They're expecting that figure the end of this month or beginning of May.
Oh, so
they're going to have 2 or 3 figures before some of the retail, I'll call them retail, online retailers even get one.
Okay.
Which is good for Big Bad Toy Store. I don't understand, if they did have a 90-day exclusivity, why wouldn't you advertise that?
And Big Bad Toy Store, whenever they have exclusives, they do tend to advertise that. So.
And Big Bad Toy Store, in their letter, kind of said, we did what we had to make sure that we got the order first, because with Big Bad Toy Store's cancellation policy, if another store gets it in a day or 2 before them, people will cancel and order it from that store. And that really, really annoys Big Bad Toy Store, which I can understand, because you may lose, 100 orders within a day or 2 just because another store got it in first.
Yep.
But they could have also worked out an agreement with Warbitron, if this is in fact what happened. They could have also worked out an agreement where they got the figure 10 days before everyone else.
Yes, instead of 90.
Yeah.
That's a big
lead.
Yes, it is. And I didn't realize they're going to have. How many other figures are they supposed to have out?
5.
I know 5, but I mean, like before the 90 days is up, because I know on their thing, you know how like they always announce a date and then it's always wrong. It's always pushed back. Are they supposed to have like all 5 of them out before the 90 days are up?
No. And is this going to happen with all 5 figures?
That's what's actually undetermined right now. They don't know if every figure has a 90-day exclusivity. If that's the case,
you would think that would be the case. It would make absolutely no sense for Big Bad Toy Store to have a monopoly on the first figure for 90 days, and then, as figures 2 and 3 and 4 come out, well, people can just go back to their preferred online retailer and buy the rest of them.
And the problem is, for me,
yeah.
I ordered from Captured Prey, which isn't a problem because they always give me great service. Orson at Captured Prey is awesome. But at Captured Prey, you prepay. So I already paid for this figure. I had no idea it was going to be 90 days behind Big Bad Toy Store. So I have to wait for that figure. Now, if I was going to order the next figure, knowing that Big Bad Toy Store may get it 90 days ahead of them, I'd be more likely to go to order it at Big Bad Toy Store instead of Captured Prey, which means these retailers are going to be sitting on figures. I already know there's, I think, Toy Dojo and A3U have actually dropped Warbitron altogether, and they're not doing themselves any favors with the fans either right now, because in the long run, that's who it hurts.
Yep.
No, that's not the kind of surprises Transformers fans like.
We don't like to wait 2 days, which is, kind of what Big Bad Toy Store was saying. Like, they don't like when people cancel their order at the very end just to go order it from another retailer because they got it in a day or 2 early.
I don't know if I really understand the business move behind it, because that is basically what I see this as a business move, and, it just seems like you may get a lot of sales through Big Bad Toy Store because they're like the Walmart of third parties, I guess you could call them. But like after they sell them, whose people may decide not to support. The fans have shown aspects of, I'm not going to buy this because you stole the intellectual property, or something where there's more to a third party than just the figure. If it's something that happens that hurts the fandom, fans have responded with, I guess the best word is a boycott, or really low sales because they understand ultimately what that's going to do to the fandom if it keeps going on, because you got to stop it somewhere. You can't let it hand. Yeah, I don't know what to say on that.
I mean, I agree 100%. I think this is hurting Warbitron more than anyone. I think they're going to have a lot harder time people jumping in for all 5 of these figures, and I think a lot of people are just going to cancel them altogether. And on the next thing that they do, if they make anything else after this,
people are going to wait.
Yeah, people are going to wait. People are not going to, they're not going to pre-order. They're not going to support a company that made this much of an error. I mean, I'll give them some slack because it's their first time apparently, but they also.
And anybody who ordered from Big Bad Toy Store isn't going to have a problem with this, though. So
I personally like Big Bad Toy Store. I don't think they're.
That's where I do the majority of my shopping, but I did not buy into this. It's just too expensive for me. But that's what I'm saying. Big Bad Toy Store ordered apparently a lot more. So still a lot of people are going to get this figure on time.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there is going to be a very large section out there of people that are going to keep Warbitron in their sights from now on.
Yeah. I mean, they did. What's interesting is they started off really well because one of the biggest complaints about in the fandom was that, like with TFC, they had Hercules, right? And they did a good job in their first figure, but Uranos was the one where, kind of gave people bad taste in their mouth because they didn't see the whole combiner. So Warbitron got it right with, hey, they showed us all 5 of them. They showed us all the modes, combine, all that stuff. So we got a taste of what it was going to look like. So they did that right, and then they go and do this, and it's like they totally killed their momentum and their positive acceptance in the fandom with this. And I still don't understand because, honestly, it's like Big Bad Toy Store will sell a lot, but there are people that buy from the other vendors, and it's going to hurt their sales overall, I think. Maybe they were trying to drive people to Big... I don't really understand it. It just seems kind of like you're cutting off your distribution arm.
Yeah, like Diecast said, they've already lost at least 2 distributors over this. How many more are going to follow suit?
And then if they do get through all of these figures, and they actually decide to make another run, like you guys were saying, I mean, people are going to look at this and go, well, I don't know. I don't know about that, And like I was saying, too, or I was talking about this earlier, is I kind of in that boat. I didn't pay for it up front. I pre-ordered it, and I'm getting mine from TF Source, and I do that because I take advantage of the stacking, and if you get up to $150, you get free shipping. So free shipping is something that if Big Bad Toy Store did free shipping after a certain amount, I would probably buy my stuff from them. This wouldn't really bother me, but I like to do it that way, and now I'm kind of like, I don't know if I want to keep mine, because I like to get my stuff early too. So, I mean, third parties have got a lot of money out there. People pay a lot of money for it.
Yeah, and I heard that TF Source was actually, sending people emails saying they weren't allowed to order with TF Source anymore because they canceled their order over this. Now, I don't know if that's they prepaid and they had their stack turned off and they canceled the order, because I believe that the whole appeal of the order stacking is you can cancel at any time, or at least before the figure comes out.
Yeah, I mean, I know just from experience, because I've ordered a lot of stuff from them, that when they started the stacking thing, which was kind of cool, I guess it was their response to Big Bad Toy Store's
pile of loot.
Mm-hmm. People were putting like figures in their stack, and it was not ones they were going to order. It was a wish list. So people, because I heard that someone had like $14,000-$15,000 worth of figures in their stack, so they had to put limits on it, and then they had to. They just recently, I think this year, they made it where they made it kind of the same style of Big Bad Toy Store, which is if it comes in and it's in your stack, they charge your card. Because before, you could let them sit in your stack and you didn't have to pay for it until all your stuff came in and you could pay for it. But like anything that's got a good intention in design, people have found a way probably to abuse it, and they had like $600-700 worth of stuff, and then they cancel, and so there's all sorts of reasons, I'm sure. But that
it also may have been the sheer amount of people that canceled their orders over this.
True. I mean, but I don't think that they should penalize the people that pre-ordered it based on new information that came out.
Based on lies.
Right. Exactly. So,
yeah, because if the store didn't know that they weren't going to get it in April, the customers sure didn't know that they weren't going to get it in April.
But the store is the one paying every time a customer cancels their pre-order.
Right.
I would think that this could. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what you can do. It's not a good. It's not. I mean, I know they say even bad PR is good because it gets people talking about it, but I don't.
Not necessarily.
Not in this. Not in this instance.
Yeah.
This is a pretty big blunder, and I know the fans, like your Decus, you're saying that you are forgiving on something. So this is their first figure, but if the next figure turns out to be the same thing, where it's 90 days, and I think this is gonna be, for lack of a better word, the death of this. It's gonna only be the people that are buying from Big Bad Toy Store that are gonna keep it alive, and then even then, you don't know if people.
Well, here's what I worry about too.
Don't buy ones that not even being made. So
right. I hope all the stores, all the other retail stores, don't drop this figure, because if that happens and you can only get it through Big Bad Toy Store,
you may not get your entire set.
You may not get your entire set. The prices may also go up.
True.
Because if Big Bad Toy Store is the only one selling it, you know that they're going to mark it up 10 or 15% more than it already is now. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I just think the more people selling the figure, the better price you're going to get.
Yeah, more competition.
Yeah, more competition.
Free market. Yeah, free market. I mean, supply, demand, all that stuff. So I would be more worried about buying it now if it became that way, because then if a lot of people dropped it and then they don't finish the project, now I got 2 figures, 3 figures that I can't even build the figure I wanted in the first place.
Oh, like my Uranos set.
Yeah, well,
I built my Uranos, but I will never buy from TFC again.
But that is different, though. They actually made all 5 of them. This is one where we don't know if they are going to finish the project.
And the schedule's so aggressive. I mean, they're talking about all 5 figures being out before the end of summer, I believe. So that's the quickest.
That's a tall order, yeah.
That's the quickest we've gotten 5 figures, if it happens, from any company.
And we have seen them all in prototype for quite some time, though.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was going to say, is I don't know if it's a tall order because they actually have it all designed and like that. But the other part is that how many people have, like, one good thing about when you space them out is that people have time to save or, get the money for it.
That's how I got Hercules. That thing took like a year to come out.
So, I think that's why I never picked up Hercules, because I was like, I can't spend like $600 on a figure, and then Green Giant came out and he was like $350. So to me, that was a little bit more affordable, and I really love Green Giant. So
he looks like a good figure. And the reason why I really would like to get Orbitron is because I want I have the alternators, I have the bigger figures, the Masterpiece. I like that bigger size to the combiners, and
I like my combiners to tower over my other figures.
Exactly. I mean, I don't think my Bruticus, Fans Project Bruticus towers over MP10.
No, not really, no.
But I don't know. And the other thing too is he's a really big figure, so he towers over freaking Hercules and Uranus. So and I think I asked maybe a couple weeks because I didn't even know, because this is where I don't really know some of this stuff. Isn't Predaking the biggest combiner?
Yes.
So he would be
the biggest one that I know of, anyway. The biggest American release.
I mean, size-wise, like he's bigger than all the other combiners as far as scale and stuff. So, like, I could see and I asked that question. I go, is Bruticus big? Like, is he supposed to be bigger than the other ones? And people are like, nope, he's pretty much the same size, right, as all the other combiners.
It's funny because in my head from G1, what I remember of G1 and what I've watched recently, all the combiners to me kind of seem like they're the same size. Yeah. I mean, you got 5 or 6 figures that all combine into one robot. I mean, how big can they be?
Throw scale out the window.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Bruticus has a tank for one leg and a Jeep for the other, and a space shuttle for an arm. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
That's like freaking Defensor.
So, all right. Well, that was great. Thank you guys, and
no problem.
Back to RFC.
You can hear our show on Stitcher Smart Radio. Stitcher allows you to listen to your favorite shows directly from your iPhone, Android phone, BlackBerry, or Palm phones. On demand and on the go. Don't have Stitcher? Download it for free today at Stitcher.com or in the app stores. Stitcher Smart Radio, the smarter way to listen to radio.
So we are back. Diecast, Lauren, and Melvar got into the discussion there on how, and thank you guys, by the way, but they got into discussion on how they broke into the fandom. And the reason I mentioned this, I got a great email on Saturday, and I'm going to go ahead and read this. And I hope I don't butcher your last name, Chris, but from Christopher Bucci. It starts out, Dear Brian and the RFC crew, this might sound like a strange email, out of nowhere, but I'm a fan of your podcast. In fact, I've listened for years, especially when I moved to Manhattan and needed some walking and train entertainment. For a long trip recently, I decided to download some past episodes of the show to help me with the tedious car ride. Lo and behold, in the July 28th, 2009 episode, which I think is the episode that JD and I teamed up with and actually brought RFC back on, in that, Brian mentioned the Transformers Collector website. I just have to say, my ears sparkled as that was my website. I was a hardcore sealed collector back then, and that was fun. Around 2000, I purged a lot of stuff and got away from it for a while, but the 2007 movie brought me back. And I've been around ever since. In a weird way, your mention got me to look up the web archive and see if it was still there. A lot of content is gone. And, well, my writing was horrible, but it still remains in some form. I wanted to say thank you for the mention. It brought back a lot of memories and back to a simpler time for me, that's for sure. So, I've mentioned this before, but it's been a while. The Transformers Collector was actually the first Transformers website that I ever found on the internet. Back in college, I actually found this through probably an Alta Vista or a Yahoo search. And Chris Triplett from Fanboy Versus and I sat and basically read through this site over and over and over again, looking at pictures, talking about the content and everything. Like, really opened up my eyes to the fact that Transformers were more than, what I remembered about G1, and that's really pretty much it at that time, that it's what existed. But I really love that, and the fact that, Chris's email just sort of brought me back. Like, it's really how I got into the online fandom. I found this website through a Yahoo search. Then it took me to what was the website, guys, that everybody went to? It was the Transformers website. It was at canet.se /optimus/tf.html. That website had a bajillion links on it.
I love how you have that memorized.
I just read it.
Oh.
But
no, but as soon as he said canet.se, I remembered the rest of it.
Yeah. But let me real quickly just show the Transformers Collector here. It's, by today's standards, it's pretty primitive, but this thing was, started in like 1997. Actually, so by that point, Beast Wars is around. But from a G1 perspective, all this material was new to me because I really didn't get into the fandom until the 97. I didn't become active until 98. So this really sparked my interest in Transformers again, or at least helped guide me to, the person I am today. Certainly, if it wasn't for this, there never would have been an RFC. And most of the people today that I call my friends, like you guys, I never would have known. So this website meant a lot to me. And it's really how I got into the fandom. You could say all the Vista got me into the fandom, but it was the gateway, I think, to this site. And I love the site. And Chris's email really made my day. Turns out he actually listened to RFC back from the beginning. Of course, back then, pretty much the entire fandom existed like on Alt Toys Transformers. So that's not too surprising. But it's still pretty cool. So I know that we all got in different times in different ways. XV, how did you find yourself into the Transformers fandom?
I just woke up one day and there I was.
Yeah, that's how I remember it.
That's basically the truth, anyway. I woke up one day. I asked you how to go to Ouija, and from there it just kind of.
How did you
went
find
on.
me? Was it Alt Toys Transformers?
Probably RFC, actually.
Oh, so RFC.
I think RFC existed before I actually talked to you.
I know that you weren't on for the first year, 6 months or so.
At least several months, yeah.
That's sort of funny. I just oh yeah, sure, I'll let you on.
Well, you didn't have standards back then.
No, I didn't. I've gone back and listened to some of your old interviews and reviews, and
he's facepalming now.
It's terrible.
They were.
Everybody has to start somewhere, though.
Well, yeah, but still, looking back on it,
it's 17 centimeters long, and orange in color, and it kind of reminds me of a floating chicken. That's not.
It's a weird way to describe a penis.
Yes.
Yeah, really.
Just your description of everything was just so methodical, mechanical, and kind of funny at the same time. It was really. I thought.
I'm trying to remember if I wrote any of it out beforehand or if I was just, talking off the top of my head.
Probably talking off the top of your head. But really, so RFC was what
I'm still not good at that.
Radio Free Cybertron was what got you into the fandom.
Yeah, I guess that's fair enough to say.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Because I don't actually remember what led me to Alt Toys Transformers in the first place, so...
What led me to Alt Toys Transformers was this website, or it was the Optimus, or it was the Transformers, whatever website at canet.se. But I definitely know that those two really led me to Alt Toys Transformers. So, Amy, I know you're a newcomer, relatively speaking, not so much at this point, but compared to, like, XV or me, or Don...
well, especially into just the Transformers fandom, because that was 4 or 5 years ago. I had watched a couple really new episodes. Well, actually, Transformers Animated was getting ready to wrap up at that point, and I saw a couple of the beginning episodes. I went on vacation somewhere, turned on the TV, and there it was, and I was like, oh. And my kids actually sat down and started watching it, and I was like, that's Transformers? It's like, that's not what I remember Transformers. But at the time, I had 2 kids, and I wanted to get them into stuff that I had looked at when I was a kid, and one of them was Transformers. So that's when I started looking on the internet, because I thought, there's got to be a way to get a hold of the old episodes. They have to have changed it from being on VHS to being on DVD, right? And then I went and found that there were some out, but it was hard to get a hold of a couple of them. So I was like, okay, I've got to keep looking. And then I just started broadening my horizon, going, okay, let's see, what else is there? What does YouTube have? What does, I had just gotten my first iPod mini device. And I looked into this great new thing called podcasts. Oh, what are that? And so I started listening to podcasts, and I realized quite quickly that, oh my gosh, there's a whole community. And so then I went online, and I found different forums, and I started signing up and started talking to other people that were fans of Transformers and going, oh my gosh, everybody's doing exactly what I'm doing. If they hadn't jumped on a couple years ago, they jumped on, or they went through the whole dark ages where no one was, there was nothing Transformers, and they're having a hard time collecting toys, and they had to go to yard sales to get them, and so it just getting a chance to read how everybody else had found Transformers one way or another, and how they like to collect it, and they were a closet Transformer fan, and now they're completely out, and it was fun. And so that just kind of snowballed into this big thing. And now all of a sudden I was reviewing and reading comics and doing podcasting myself, and boom. And during that time, of course, I had also found RFC, and I started listening to you guys when I would go travel down to visit family, or I would go, like during the day when I'm sitting here doing domestic stuff, I'd be listening to you guys. And then you came over to T-Formers, which I was already a part of, and it just kind of, I was invited on the show, and boom, there you go. That's me.
And now you're a podcasting machine.
God, you're a podcasting machine.
You're a legend.
I podcast everywhere. Oh my goodness. Yeah, and I think I finally counted it last year. I think I edited about a little over 85 podcasts.
I edited like one. I'm gonna have to edit this one though. Okay.
Well, you had to edit it anyway.
XV will be our paladin for this evening.
So, you mentioned being in the closet, people being in the closet and out of the closet. I was out of the closet for the longest time, but in my new job, I'm kind of in the closet.
Aw.
I thought you got outed recently.
No, somebody outed me. But I'm trying to, like, pretend.
You're trying to pretend that you're not a fan right now?
So now I'm imagining Brian is actually a pretender shell at this point. And he's been
I'm like a pretender shell with a combiner inside. That would be funny.
I was thinking more like you now as a pretender shell and asshole Brian from 2005 is what's inside.
Perhaps so. Perhaps so. Hey, Mickey, you've been around longer than I realized. How did you get into the online Transformers
I think Mickey's older than you, too.
Maybe, maybe not.
I don't know. I mean, I was there since Christmas of '84. And I just remember carrying through the post-Action Master years of enjoying my love of Transformers to myself. And then the internet happened, and I found the Canon.se website, and then I sort of just grew from there. And I briefly had an icon website, Shane Claus Icons, which was moderately notable, I suppose.
I never
to
heard
be generous.
Okay,
it's not terribly interesting.
I always knew you from the Allspark, and XV told me, yeah, hey Mickey from the Allspark is going to be on Superhero Time. I'm like, he's the guy whose icon weirds me the hell out.
Yeah, I think all my notability within the fandom comes from just posting Tony Messel's face photoshopped onto weird things, which is kind of cheap, really. But
hey, you know, everybody needs a niche.
And I made a couple of those for you too.
You did.
Then there was that weird trend on Allspark where everybody was using those.
That was great. When I corrupted the entire website.
So you're megabyte.
Rob, what about you? You've been around for a while, but mostly like in the Gundam and fandom, right?
Yeah, I mean, I have an almost kind of story. I almost got into the fandom online around 1993 or 1994. Had some very brief contact with Phil Zeman and his CMTF group on Prodigy, and then my mom lost her, and then my mom lost her job, and we had to get rid of Prodigy. So after that, yeah, when I actually got online and got into a fandom, it was Gundam. That didn't go too well, so I, kept myself for a good while, and I started listening to RFC because actually, XV and I have been doing figurereviews.com for 9 years now, and when you brought the show back, it was the first time I had ever heard his voice.
That's true. That's true.
Yes, so...
And I mean, it was even longer after that before either of us knew what the other looked like, so...
Yeah. Neither of us knew what the other looked like until XV told me to get a camera because I was going to be on the show.
Yeah.
So...
No, actually, it was before that, but...
Slightly before.
And was I there when you guys met each other?
For the first time in person?
Yeah.
Yes.
So
yes.
Oh, yeah, because XV got there late, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
Because
I remember the first time I met XV was at when we went to see Revenge of the Fallen together.
Yeah, it was at The Great Escape that's not there anymore.
Yeah. That was a disappointing evening.
In some ways, yeah.
So, just want to mention something before we get to Don. So, XV, do you remember that period of time when we thought that SUSP and Super Spy were the same person?
I remember the period of time when I couldn't tell them apart by their names.
In person, you can definitely tell them apart. But yeah,
I've never met either of them, to my knowledge.
So I just found out in the chat that Animated Plastic, our faithful diehard Animated Plastic, is the same as Lauren from the Hangout and who was on the show earlier in this episode. I feel kind of bad. So, sorry. Okay, so Don, obviously, like me and Mickey, you've been around since the beginning of Transformers. You've been a fan, but you got in. Were you a member of Transmasters?
No, but I do know Lion Elliott, who was part of that. I do know her, but I wasn't part of it myself. I got into it. Actually, it all happened really pretty much over the course of one weekend. As far as the catalyst, it was 1984. It was my birthday. I was turning 14, and we were. My parents did antiques and collectibles, and we were set up at Superfleet in Greensboro, North Carolina, back when it was a pretty good show. And there was a table there run by a man named Ralph, and he had almost all the Dinobots, Autobot cars, mini cars, just Nirvana, in an 8-foot table. And that morning I caught the second episode of More Than Meets the Eye, Part 2. And I thought, this is pretty damn cool. This is robots that turn into vehicles. And then I saw those characters later on that morning, and it was my birthday. And my mom said, well, you can get one if you want. And I went up there. He didn't have Grimlock. I wanted Grimlock. I think most everybody, if they given us a choice of Dinobots, would have got Grimlock first. He didn't have Grimlock. So I got Sludge. And Sludge was my first Transformer ever. And I haven't stopped since.
In the 84 line of Transformers, did they come out in waves, or did everything just come out at once?
I'll be honest, I really can't remember, Brian, because I was sort of dependent again. Where we lived, I had nothing within walking distance. So I only saw the stuff if I was with Mom, out shopping, or with Dad, going to Kmart for something. That's the only time I saw this stuff. But I do remember seeing at Eckerd, which was a drugstore chain at the time, Mirage sitting on a shelf, Brainstorm in '86. I remember going to Kmart and seeing Autobots Deluxe cars for $9.96 at a checkout.
I don't think I saw any in stores until '85. Because I remember when at Christmas '84, I had never seen them before because they were so rare.
Yeah.
The only ones I saw were the ones I got for Christmas. Then my dad broke Jazz and Prowl. Thank you.
So
before I even touched them.
So
wow, you got Kilby's record beat. He had to actually touch his toys before they broke.
Yeah.
So I really
Merry Christmas.
So I really can't say about the waves, because by the time I saw them, you probably had several cases and assortments on a shelf at one time. So no, that's pretty much it. All happened over the course of, I caught Part 2. I saw the toys that morning. I remember my first four in order: Sludge, Top Spin, Warpath, and Beachcomber.
How did you get into the online fandom, though?
Well, I bought my first computer in '96 when I was at Service Merchandise. It was a PS1.
It was that late?
95, 96, yeah.
I would have thought you had like a Commodore or something, dude.
No, I did have a Timex Sinclair 1000, but I didn't work. But no, I got a computer and I got online, and I was at TFW 2005 for a while, role playing. And
in '96.
No,
TFW. Yeah, okay, so I'm going to take. So Tony Bacala, it's Andy, right, or Anthony? I forget. When he launched TFW 2005, he went around asking people for help promoting it. I helped promote the launch of.
No, I mean the mush. I meant the mush, not the.
Okay.
I mean,
because I was going to say that was like literally in 2000, I think.
No, I'm sorry. I meant this is the actual online mush / mud. And I knew several people from BotCon that was in that, so that's what sort of got me to get a computer and do this online role-playing stuff. And then my first website was bigbot.com. And because that's just the first one I found.
Is that still around?
I wonder.
I haven't even looked in years.
Let's find out.
I'm finding out right
Yeah,
now.
we've all got browser windows here. Let's go find out, man.
Yes,
Well, we have browser windows, but we don't all have
It
interest.
takes you to Bot Talk.
That's not surprising, actually, because owned by the same person.
What was it again? I like big bots.
And I just no, bigbot.com.
Okay,
Bigbot.com.
bigbot.com.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And that was just the website that I went to because it had all the headlines of the day. I didn't realize that he was just basically lifting them from other people and not giving credit. So that's what I was told. No offense, that's just what I was told.
That's a Renaud, right?
Nice.
Yeah, I remember him.
So
Everybody who's been around more than 10 years remembers him.
Yeah.
I never had a problem with him.
So that's pretty much, I got involved with the mushing. I got involved with the. I was the original Spike, TFW 2005.
Nice.
It sounds like somebody reciting their soap opera credits, though.
Picture it, Sicily.
Wait, are you proud of being Spike?
Yes.
'Cause-
Yes, I was the first human they allowed.
I'm trying to think. Was I on Alt Toys Transfers first, or was I in Cybertron on Downet first?
Oh, you started there?
Oh, Downet.
Yeah.
I mean, I spent time in Cybertron too, but it wasn't the first place I went.
I think
it might have been the first place I went.
I think I was
Does anyone here remembering using the internet before it became graphical when it was just text-based?
No, not me.
Yeah. I remember going to Alt.Toys Transformers. I think it was 84 after I met Raksha.
Alt Toys Transfers 94. You mean?
You met Raksha? Yeah, I've met
of
her
course
several,
of course he's met Raksha.
several times.
What is she like?
I have petted Avatar, her original.
Are you friends with Raksha on Facebook?
I don't think I am anymore.
Because
I don't know.
Right now, it's going through that list of people that I need to friend. It says you should friend this person, you should friend this person, and like the third person is Raksha.
Yeah,
like, I don't really know Raksha.
Raksha is very cool. She's a woman of extremely passionate ideals, and I respect her for that. But she's also fun to be around. And this is an old man story. I'm sorry, but one year we had the Transformers books on VHS. Basically, they took the books that came with the cassette and put the books on a VHS tape, and a narrator read what was on the printed page. And we just basically MST3K'd that one night till like 2 o'clock in the morning, because you had Starscream in robot mode hiding behind a tanker truck, like this. And we were all just sitting there. We were all in her room, just laughing our butts off.
I can see why that would have been fun.
Yeah. She's awesome. Avatar was only about 15 feet at that time, so he was still kind of small. Or she.
Good Lord. Okay.
She's always been one of those fascinating personalities in Transformers fandom to me.
Well, yeah, but she when it comes to reptiles and other similar species, she is absolutely brilliant.
Oh yeah, that's what I've heard. She's one of those people. She sort of pulled herself out of the Transformers fandom, but there's a lot of people that have been around from that point that are still around. Phil was around at that point. Dave Van Domelen was still around. Dave's still
DVD. He's awesome.
Yeah, he is.
David.
Yeah,
David's
David.
been around for God knows how.
Yeah, David is still around. But a lot of those people are not. Ben was Ben one of the first? Was he?
Well, he had a site prior to Beast Wars.
Prior to
because some of the Beast Wars stuff was announced on his site.
Okay. I first found Ben through bwtf.com or .net or whatever it was. So, it's there's a lot of those people are still around. A lot aren't, and we've lost a few.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, I remember it.
Bert.
I remember like it was yesterday.
I think Bert was actually the first person in the fandom that I actually met that I knew.
Oh, wow.
At BotCon 01. Burt Ward Skyflight. I really liked Burt. He was a
Wait,
good
the
guy.
Burt Ward?
The Burt Ward,
Or-
Transformers fandom.
Not so he's just a Burt Ward, really.
He was the Burt Ward to me.
Oh, okay.
He was a good guy. I don't really have anything else in respect to how I got into fandom. I think my foray into Cybertron on Downut is probably as deep as I want to go. One thing I do want to mention on the show, I mentioned this a couple weeks ago, but we got so into that topic last week that I completely failed to follow up. I want to mention a couple of podcasts that I listen to each week, just sort of help spread the word. A couple weeks ago, I think I mentioned Laser Time and something else. One of my favorite podcasts of all time, it's not Transformers related, but it is video game related. Video games are not necessarily my primary passion in life these days, but it definitely used to be, which is Retronauts at retronaut, like astronaut.com. It's a really great podcast. It used to be part of oneup.com. OneUp.com no longer exists, but the guys that put that together are still around. Great podcast. If you like old video games, go and listen. Retronauts.com. Anything else, guys?
I'll just mention that I did see a few Beast Hunter figures at the local Ross. Ripclaw, some Commander size figures such as Hardshell. No upsize Cyberverse yet, but I have heard they are showing up as well. And there's also that supposed rumor that Rhinoc has been found in a Ross/Marshalls as well.
So that's been a few months old.
Yeah.
I didn't know how.
I've seen Whirl twice at Toys R Us this week, but no one else in the wave.
Yeah, I've seen that, and it's $24.95 is what their Voyagers are now.
I think Whirl's Wave is 2 Whirls, a Double Dealer, and a Rhinox.
That would make sense then.
Yeah, it makes a little more sense to see Whirls just statistically, but...
I thought you said sadistically. I thought that fits the character.
Oh, yeah.
Would make sense for Whirl. He's the sadistic one.
So, if there's a wave that you're looking for, check your discount places, just not the ones close to me.
Because he's already nicked them.
Territorial.
Yeah.
Mine.
So how do you guys react when you're at like toy hunting and you find somebody else who's doing the exact same thing you are, looking for the exact same stuff you are?
Well,
I try not to talk to them whenever possible.
And I do most of mine online now, so
I've run into a couple.
The entire internet's my competition. Sorry.
I've run into a couple people when I'm go in to look for toys, and you see the guys, they show up and they're lingering around. You're like, I wonder if they're Transformer fans. And I never say anything, but still, it's like they're probably looking at me going, "Oh, she's here getting stuff for her kids. Don't take my toy, please."
Yeah, don't get your kids' grubby hands off my Power Core combiners.
I've yet to engage anyone in conversation at a toy store that didn't immediately make me feel uncomfortable and want to run away.
Mickey.
Except they keep talking to you and they won't leave and they won't shut up. And
Mickey, the Star Wars guy at Walmart.
Exactly. Those are the only toy collectors I ever meet in person.
So, okay, so story here. It was 11:30 at night. We wanted chocolate milk when I was visiting Mickey one time, so we went out to Walmart. I don't know why we went to Walmart for it, but since you got a grocery store a minute and a half away. And we went and looked at the toys as, normal adults getting chocolate milk at 11:30 at night will do. And for
now you say normal.
For whatever reason, this guy starts talking to us about Spanish carded Star Wars figures.
Okay.
And he won't stop talking, no matter how disinterested we look. So I do the only sensible thing you could in that situation. I just turn around and walk away. But I walked 2 aisles away and called Mickey's phone and basically said, okay, tell him there's an emergency and you have to leave right now.
Good thinking.
Yeah, so that's cute. Yeah. Oh, good times. Oh, I think it's funny though, because sometimes I've never actually found myself in an aisle with an actual Transformers fan that I recognized. But I'm also the person that if a parent comes by and starts asking me questions about the Transformer, toys or whatever, I will sit there and go into this big old long thing, and they'll be like, "Okay, yeah, okay, thank you. You answered my question like a couple minutes ago," and then they start walking away. So when that happens, it's like, okay, I think I geeked out on a little too much.
Yeah, there's been occasions like around the holidays, especially where I will be at a Toys R Us or something, and like parents or obvious grandparents will be like, "Can you help me? I'm looking for such and such thing for." And a lot of times it was like a bumblebee thing, and it's like, oh, that's fine. There's like dozens of bumblebees to choose from. How much
throw a rock in any direction?
Take this shelf former. Your 2-year-old will love it.
That's kind of the
Buy
best.
several.
That's kind of the best.
That's most of the interaction I ever have over like looking at toys is ending up helping parents or whatever kind of relatives don't really know about it and have been given specific instructions they don't know how to follow.
What are you going to say, Don?
I'm saying that's kind of a really good feeling, especially when you put so much energy into this. It's not just something that is for your enjoyment, but you can actually around the holidays help people get the right gift, because not just with who I work for, but even when I'm at other stores looking for me, like XV said, I'll see these poor grandparents, and it's not they don't understand; they just have no frame of reference to go by.
Yeah, I mean,
other than just the kid saw X product, it's blue, and it turns into a helicopter. That's really all they got to go on, and seeing their faces when they realize this is what my grandson or granddaughter wants, and they know and that's a good feeling. Yeah, and I've even helped fellow collectors, because I had a Star Wars Black Boba Fett. I was going to buy that for myself, and one of my good friends had been looking for 2 or 3 months. I was still on the fence about getting it, so I just went ahead and let him pick it up because he's been trying to find it for so long. So you occasionally can help your friends out.
Invariably, what happens to me, I'm in the toy aisle, another adult will walk up to me and ask me about a toy for their kid, and I start telling them what I like about the toy. And that just weirds them out.
I'm 6'3", so mostly what I get anymore is, "Can you reach this down for me?"
Yeah, I get that a lot too.
Yeah.
Especially on Toys R Us, they ask you to lift the flap up and see what's behind the flap.
Which there's not any anymore.
Yeah,
but
rarely. Sometimes. Depends on the Toys R Us.
Yeah.
Aside from trying to avoid the weirdos, the toy collectors, I tend not to talk to people in retail stores because, for me, going through a store, walking through it is sort of a zen experience. I like being surrounded by people, but being completely alone. For me, walking through retail is kind of like normal people do walking through a park.
Yeah.
The fluorescent lights sort of re-energize me, and I like to watch people, but not be forced to connect with them.
Sort of like
You're
on a
in your
podcast.
Zen moment, right?
Yeah. Surrounded by dozens of people, but still completely alone.
Yeah.
It's very relaxing.
Yeah.
You're in your happy place.
Yes.
Hey Mickey, I'll send you one of my badges. You can come work for us. And, be zen all you want.
Yeah, that won't work, I don't think. No. Anything else, guys? Anything else this week?
Well, in comic terms, I did find a little thing the other day that kind of made me mad. I found that Amazon is now taking over Comixology.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too. I'm like, this could be good, or it could be very bad.
Amazon could really help them with like money and infrastructure, or it could really scare Marvel and DC away.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, we'll see how it goes. They say that they're just going to be there as like, a subsidiary, but yeah.
And I think Robots in Disguise 28's out next week?
Yes. Yeah, it is.
So that'll be kicking off Back to Earth.
Yep. We'll see how that goes too. I'm excited to read
going
it.
Back to Earth? Damn it.
Now look,
John is writing.
They made Robot Politics good, so maybe they can make Earth be interesting too.
Yeah.
But I hate Earth. Earth sucks.
Boyfriend. Yeah.
But, Amy, there's no word from all your sources about them continuing Regeneration 1. You've not heard anything about that,
No.
right?
As far as I know,
Okay.
it's wrapping
Yeah,
up. And I think
Use all your
Simon-
pull. Use
Hey.
all that you have available at your fingertips to find out.
IDW is a merciful IDW, so
So we're done. It's done.
I kind of think that Simon's actually had because of what he's been doing. I think he's been describing on his blog that because of that, he's got like other work that he's been doing. So,
Okay. All right, that's cool.
I mean, if he's not doing Transformers and you just like want to follow Simon, I know he's doing other things. So,
yeah.
I'll check out his blog then.
That's awesome. Okay, well, you can find us at tfradio.net for Radio Free Cybertron, Superhero Time, and all of our podcasts. We just had a new episode of Fanboy Versus.
Yay!
Nicole, Chris McFeely, and Chris Triplett just reviewed Captain America 2, The Winter Soldier. Spoilers. It's really, really good.
But don't watch the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. episode first. Watch
Don't.
Now, like Catwoman good or just like regular good?
Regular good.
Regular good.
Yeah.
Clue good.
Yeah. Check that out. Of course, we also have other shows like Bell to Bell, Nebula and Pirate Radio, which is now monthly. And in the last 2 weeks, I think we've had 6 new episodes of the Turtle Lair podcast. But I have post-dated them, so you would never know.
Oh, good.
Yeah. But unless you like watch it in your iTunes feed, and you're like, holy crap, 6 new episodes.
There's a Turtles podcast?
There's a Turtles podcast. It's
Woohoo! I'll have to check that out.
Yep, TMNT.
I have not heard of that before.
Yep. It's called The Turtle Lair, and you can find it at tmntpodcast.com. I own that URL. It's pretty sweet.
You own a lot of URLs.
I sure do.
How's Blah Blah Digimon coming?
Ask Ken.
Yeah.
That's pretty much Ken's fault right there.
It's not a big deal.
Well, we can harangue him over it anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
We don't mind.
But yeah, you can
We'll harangue him.
You can check out all of their shows as well as RFC and find all our social links like facebook.com/tfradio or Twitter @tfradio. And we have stuff like Pinterest, which I haven't updated in a year.
Pinterest?
Pinterest, yeah.
Lady Reddit?
Lady Reddit, yeah, pretty much. So check that out. I'm on Twitter at @bkilby. Anybody want to share their social?
Lady of Rack on Twitter.
Superhero_time gets updated occasionally.
That works.
Hey, Mickey on Twitter.
RAC2750?
At HMRC for EVR.
Oh, yes. So,
and you can also catch me on the Underbase, too.
And that's at what? Underbase.libsyn.com?
Yeah, it's underbase.libsyn.com, or you can just find us on Twitter. We tweet out pretty much just Underbase stuff. So it's at the Underbase. So we just got finished. I just posted it actually an hour before I came on here. Our first review of Windblade.
Sweet.
So
go check that out.
It was fun. 2 hours of awesome.
That's amazing that you can talk about 2 hours about like a 21-page comic. I love that.
And don't forget to join us each week for random Massey attacks.
Yes, we have had our Massey attack for the week.
What was
so the
today's
show's
damage,
complete.
Don?
2 claw marks and a bite mark.
Ouch.
Apparently my hand was not doing enough petting.
Aw.
Or too much petting, or brain neurons.
Yeah.
Well, he did pee on my favorite pillow while I was at Mom's.
That's a sign,
That just
Don.
means he missed you.
Yeah.
That's a cat.
That's a cat. Okay, for the guys, I'm your host, Brian Kilby. We will be back next week. Have a good one.
Take care, all.
This has been Radio Free Cybertron. Visit us at tfradio.net for show notes and to subscribe to the podcast. Follow us on Twitter at tfradio for news and updates. Watch our live stream at tfradio.net/live. Join our Facebook fan page at facebook.com/tfradio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, TF Radio Network. Have a question or comment? Leave it on our Facebook fan page or mail it to contact@tfradio.net. This podcast is released under a Creative Commons license. Any part of this podcast can and should be redistributed, but please, proper attribution is required if you know what's good for you. Jeez, when are these guys ever going to move out of their parents' basements?